Good evening, everybody. Welcome into episode 18 of the Scarlet and Gray podcast, the first episode of 2023. I am Tyler Johnson, joined tonight by Jordan Dalton. JD, how you doing tonight, man? You were on mute there, dude.
I'm doing great. Doing wonderful.
Awesome, man. Love to hear it. There's a little bit to get to tonight. So just to give you guys a little bit of a plan for the show moving forward, since we are in the off season for Ohio State football, probably going to have episodes live about every week, every other week. It'll just kind of depend on what news there is. If there's breaking news, we can have an episode, so on and so forth. Just a lot harder in the off season for Ohio State football content. But if we can get any particular guests on, we'll definitely try and have a show as well. So just want to give you guys an update on that moving forward. And then once we get closer to spring ball, it'll be back to every week. So just want to give you guys an update on the schedule. But before we get to tonight's episode, it's going to be a national championship game preview. We just want to take a second and hear from our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. What's up, everybody? We know that daily fantasy never stops, and Network 216 is proud to be a partner with Underdog Fantasy. Very simple to use. All you have to do is go to underdogfantasy.com, and you will just click the sign in button. You'll create an account if you haven't done so already. If you've not created an account, it'll ask you to enter a code. Enter code 216, and they will double your first deposit up to $100. Underdog Fantasy, live draft lobbies that you get to compete with you and your friends. It's no salary cap like DraftKings and FanDuel. You get to go to a draft lobby, pick the players you want, or you can do daily pick'ems, which give you access to all the NFL and NBA games for you to make your picks every single night. Again, go to underdogfantasy.com or use the Underdog Fantasy app on iOS or Android. Use code 216 to double your first deposit up to $100. Sign up today. And if you guys are joining us tonight and you're on Twitter, go over to the YouTube channel. You can subscribe to the channel for free, and you are entered in for exclusive giveaways we have available only to our YouTube subscribers. And also, if you would take a second, drop a like on the video, which helps the YouTube algorithm grow and Network 216 grow as well. We would really appreciate that. So, JD, we're going to talk national championship tonight. We're going to get to some of the spread we like, some of the odds we like for the game, prop bets. It's going to be a fun show. And then neither next week or the week after, guys, we are going to recap the entire Ohio State football season. So a lot of busy content coming up now that we're in the offseason. But, JD, Georgia and TCU tonight. A bit of a surprise on the fact that TCU made the national championship game. What are your thoughts with having TCU here? I don't think anybody besides TCU believed they would actually be here.
What was their record last year? It was terrible, wasn't it?
They were they were absolutely terrible. And then they bring in, because they had Gary Patterson for a long time. I mean, Gary Patterson was there for, almost I would say since we've been born. And this is a team that comes in, and this year they were fantastic. I mean, obviously they were fantastic, and all the credit has to go to, first and foremost, Sonny Dykes, who got a really good extension from TCU, absolutely deserves it. The hire was a little bit questioned because he has struggled, at various stops he's been at. TCU was 3-6 in the conference, 5-7 overall. You have to admit, you're surprised TCU is in this championship game. Would you agree?
Yes. I don't think there was a single person other than, like you said, TCU fans and TCU themselves that believe they would be where they are right now. And I bet you a lot of people that are fans of TCU did not expect them to take the college football world by storm this year. So props to them. Props to the Hypno Toad getting it done. But yeah, they've been a lot of fun to watch, and they beat Michigan up pretty bad in a game that they needed to win. So it's pretty crazy. But
it was just incredible.
Yeah, we were talking about the possibility of a Big Ten national championship, and neither team got it done, which is unfortunate. But
yeah, I mean, it really is unfortunate. There's a lot. I mean, because we will have other things we'll be able to break down. Like at some point, we're going to go over the coach turnover that we have, transfer portal, recruiting. But a big story, and we're not going to hit on a lot tonight, is the status of Michigan head coach Jim Harbaugh. I think there's a good chance he goes to the NFL. We'll see what happens there because Michigan's not willing to pay him to this point. It sounds like he wants a new contract. Part of the contract that he's a part of now has an NFL buyout of $3 million, which is absolutely nothing to NFL teams. So that situation is going to be interesting to monitor moving forward. I think with TCU, they have pretty much the entire country rooting for them tonight. I think that Georgia's not hated like Alabama because I think Alabama's just in an echelon of their own just because of Nick Saban's success. But if Georgia wins back-to-back titles, I think people will really start to hate Georgia, kind of like they do Alabama. But I would say TCU has the support of the country tonight because this is an underdog. And one thing that we as Americans love, we love a good underdog story, and that's exactly what TCU is. So what are you expecting in this game tonight?
A lot of points. A lot of points. I expect there to be a lot of points. I didn't think the Ohio State Georgia game was going to be as high scoring as it was. And Nick, he brought up that he thought it was going to be a shootout. And I was like, there's no way with, Georgia's defense being so good and Ohio State's defense not being great, but Georgia's offense wasn't that great. So I thought it was going to be a little bit lower scoring. And that game just turned into a freaking backyard wop football, just touchdowns after touchdown. I wasn't expecting that. And TCU's been known to put up the points, and Duggan, he make things happen with his feet. And I think one of the big things that we didn't expect, and we've talked about it on the show a lot this year, was how CJ Stroud struggles improvising and struggles with his, and he's athletic, but he doesn't know when to run, and that's kind of like his weak area. And he literally had the best game of his entire career with his feet, improvising outside the pocket, making plays downfield. Like he put on a masterclass against Georgia. But TCU is gonna run the ball with Duggan. They're gonna design, a lot of read options. They're gonna get him outside the pocket. He's gonna make plays with his feet. And Georgia struggled really bad with CJ Stroud doing that, and he hasn't really done that all year. So I think that's going to be the dark horse. Like if Max can get it going and that offense gets in a rhythm and he's making plays, we just saw it last week. Georgia really struggles with it. So
yeah, they do, man.
Yeah, TCU's defense, they make plays when it matters.
And the thing about Max Duggan, I mean, you talked about it. He is very mobile, and that just adds a dimension that Georgia really has to defend. Georgia hasn't faced a ton of mobile quarterbacks. I mean, CJ Stroud's not mobile. I mean, he was a lot more mobile against Georgia because he had to be, I believe. And I think that's a dimension that if he shows more moving forward, it's going to boost his draft stock. If teams see in workouts that he's really got more of speed to him, they're really going to take advantage of that. But the fact that CJ Stroud was able to run on Georgia, I think Max Duggan could really have a good day. And we'll get to some interesting prop bets on this game that I love personally. But Max Duggan, they have to protect him in this game, and I think it's going to be a challenge. Georgia has, we saw it. They got a really good defensive line. And Jalen Carter's going to be a top 3 pick. And yes, top 3. Wouldn't shock if Chicago keeps the first pick. it's either going to be Will Anderson Jr., D end of Alabama, or it's going to be Jalen Carter, defensive tackle from Georgia. Like, it's one of those two, even though I think they'll trade out. But this Georgia defensive line, man, is good. I don't know how TCU's offensive line can hold up against that. And that's where I think it gives Georgia the advantage. It wears you down. And I think that's where that really could hurt TCU. Now, to TCU's credit, they stood up against Michigan. But they got a lead against Michigan. If TCU gets into a situation, I think this is what's going to happen. They're going to have to just drop back a lot and throw. I think Georgia could have a field day. I don't think they're going to blow them out. I really don't. If it gets to that, though, and TCU is really having to just play from behind this entire game, like going behind 2 touchdowns or whatever it might be, they're really going to struggle in this game because you're just giving that Georgia defense, letting them tee off on Max Duggan. And I think that's going to cause them a huge problem. How do you like Georgia's offense going against a very stingy TCU defense?
It's going to come down to big plays. If TCU's defense can produce touchdowns like they did last week and turnovers, I think this is going to be a close game for sure. But those plays sometimes don't happen against Georgia. Stetson Bennett's pretty good with football. So I mean, we've seen it all year, man. Like we talked about TCU getting smacked by Michigan, and they somehow, some way are in every game they play. So even the one they lost against Kansas State came down to the wire. So I think it's going to be a good matchup. I really do. If you would have asked me this before the playoff, if let's say Georgia or TCU make it to the national championship game, like who wins that game? Like I would have said like TCU gets blown out. But I don't know. They have something about them this year. Maybe they're the magic too.
Yeah, TCU, just their story is just really incredible. And, I go back mainly to the Baylor game where they're trailing. They have no timeouts. They rush the kicker, literally do a rush drill, have the kicker just run onto the field. They kick a game-winning, 40-yard field goal. It's incredible the fact that everything they've dealt with, they've trailed in a majority of their games, and they always managed to come back and win. And against Michigan, it was really the complete opposite. They were just on top from the get-go. And I love what they're doing. I really do. It's so much fun seeing a team like this that really no one expected, because no one expected TCU really this year to even be that good. And Quentin Johnson at wide receiver is the guy that really makes this offense go on the outside. They're going to be, it looks like, without Keandre Miller due to injury, who is a huge part of their offense, but they have Amari DiMercato. It all begins with Max Duggan, though, at quarterback, and it's going to be up to him to win this football game. If he can make the plays in this game, TCU has a chance. I'm not saying they're going to win, but I think that's a chance. It'll keep them in the game. I think Georgia is going to do their best, even though they don't have a great secondary. They're going to do their best I think they're going to double Quentin Johnson in this game and make somebody else beat them on the outside. So that being said, JD, the spread for this game, the one ESPN, I don't know who ESPN uses to determine that. They have it at 13. Georgia's minus 13.5. I went with Barstool Sportsbook, and they had it. I did this last week. They had it at 12.5 for Georgia. Where do you see this? Where do you see this ending up tonight? Is it a double-digit game, because, dude, when that spread is that high, it's that high, man. You take that every single time. If it's TCU and they're you could take them plus 13.5. I do it in a heartbeat, and I took TCU plus 12.5 in this game.
Yeah, I would take it. I would take that for sure. I think they're gonna definitely cover. And who knows, man? They might pull up the upset. So
yeah,
I like those odds. I do, especially in a national championship game.
And this is a truly neutral site. Like it's in LA. It's not a home game for anybody. I think it's also remarkable. Again, not to talk too much NFL here, the fact that LA national title game, Super Bowl basically in less than a year. That's just incredible to me.
Yeah,
how that works. But some of the other just props tonight that I went with that I love at the time. This was at the time Max Duggan rushing yards 30.5. I took the over. Now sacks get taken into account there, but dude, 30.5 rushing yards for Max Duggan, I like those numbers. I mean, considering he's ran for 461 yards this year, I think that's pretty solid.
The sack yardage count towards rushing? I thought that was...
it does, unfortunately.
NFL towards passing.
I think in college, I'm pretty sure in college it does. Is it not?
I want to say it counts against one of the... I cannot think about it right now.
It's all good.
One of the leagues it's passing, one of it's rushing, but I can't remember.
I know the NFL for sure because we saw it last week with Deshaun Watson, who probably would have had close to 100 yards. Rushing was affected hugely. Okay, so another one that I like, dude. I mean, Tay Barber to score a touchdown in this game, I think that's absolutely possible. I mean, given the fact that Tay Barber this year is right up there in touchdowns. He's tied for the team lead in second with 5 touchdowns this year behind Quentin Johnson, who has 6. So I think him getting a touchdown could absolutely happen. Max Duggan going 0.5 interceptions in this game. I think he has 1. So I easily took that. The interception one for me is easy, unless you have a guy that just never throws a pick. Then the final one I like tonight, I went total touchdown passes by Max Duggan. I can't believe this was over 1.5. I think that's an over-rainer. There are so many props that just look really good, and that's what it was for me. Is there anything you really like tonight? Any player props, over/under, anything that you really like?
I haven't really looked at it yet. I was going to place my bets right before the game. Just see what came up. But
they changed the spread again on FanDuel. I think it's 14.5.
Oh, you got to hammer that.
Dude, that's okay. I don't know what I'm missing with some of these, some of the spreads. Like, for instance, this game tonight, TC, I get it. But they beat Michigan. They didn't just beat them. They were in control of that game pretty much throughout. And the fact that the spread, I feel like that is just asking people to hammer that. I don't know why you wouldn't. I see people taking Georgia and taking the spread. It went back to 13.5. But I mean, that's just so favorable to me. So favorable. I mean, there are some other ones that are really some of the specials tonight. Stetson Bennett have 1+ touchdowns in each half. I think that's absolutely possible. Some of the ones that are a little bit, man, there are some of these that are kind of nice. I mean, Ladd McConkey for Georgia to have 25+ receiving yards in each half. So 50. Man, some of these are nice. Some of these are really nice. I don't know who comes up with this idea. It's just remarkable to me. Because some of these are just giving people money.
College football subtracts sacks from rushing total for individual players. NFL takes it away from team passing stat, but not individual stat.
Okay. That's interesting. That's good to know. Okay.
It doesn't affect, a quarterback can get sacked 5 times. It'll go away from the team passing, but not individual.
Dude, I wish that was how it was in the NFL. I really wish that's how it was in the NFL.
That is how it is.
It's just crazy. I mean, I'm pumped for this national title game tonight. I mean, I know you are too. Again, it's not a matchup anybody predicted by any means. I mean, Georgia, you could have easily made the case they would be here. Talk about just historic if they go back to back tonight. I mean, is this the start? I mean, we've seen Alabama do it. Alabama have a dynasty. Would Georgia be the next dynasty in college football? Like, do you think this is something that they might not win it next year, but then they win it the year after, and Kirby Smart just built a dynasty with Georgia?
I think yes, but the caveat with that is with this 12-team playoff that's coming into effect, it'll be. I mean, they're gonna make they're gonna make the playoffs every year with the 12-team playoff.
Mm-hmm.
Same with Ohio State. If Ohio State doesn't make it in with 12-team playoff,
everybody, you're firing everybody.
You're by coach. But realistically, they're going to be in the playoffs every year. They're going to be in contention for the SEC championship every year. Kirby Smart seems to have found a formula that works, but I think college football is going to change a lot in the next 5 years. So it's really about which programs are going to be able to adapt to NIL, which ones are going to be able to adapt to the longevity of the seasons. I think is a really, really, really big thing that people aren't talking about. How are they going to change the schedules? I know there's a lot of logistics that they still need to figure out with length of are we still going to be playing 13 games and then?
Yeah, dude. There might be maybe they have to cut down the games.
Yeah, they're going to have to. I could see maybe instead of doing 3 out of conference games, you drop it down to 1 or 2. One less game in your division, and then I don't know. I don't want to be in charge of any of that stuff, but it'll be really hard for a team to establish a dynasty with a 12-team playoff.
Yeah,
I truly believe there's going to be teams that are in their playoffs every year: Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, Michigan. Should always be knocking on the door. USC, next couple years might be a banger. Colorado.
Coach Prime, baby.
Tulane. I don't know. We got a lot of up-and-coming teams. But in all seriousness, I think they're going to have the talent for it. It's just going to be who can figure out this puzzle of college football in the next couple of years.
Yeah. It's going to be fun, man. It's going to be a lot of fun, and that brings us really to the question of the night here. Georgia and TCU is about to kick off. I mean, they're going to kick off here in less than a half hour on ESPN. College football season's about to end, which is sad to think about. It really is, just like the NFL season coming slowly to an end here. Well, at least for the Browns, it's over. Okay. Georgia, TCU. Depending on where you look, Georgia is favored by 13.5. So, JD, who wins tonight's game? What's your score? And are you taking TCU plus the points? Are you taking Georgia to cover? What are you taking tonight?
All right. Everything in my body is telling me take Georgia. But I think TCU is going to pull it off. I think they win by 3.
Ooh,
on a last-second field goal to pull off a miracle upset, 41-38. It's going to be a classic. And I got the Hypno-Toad Horned Frogs doing it, 41-38.
Oh, man, the Hypno-Toad. All right. Well, first and foremost, I already said I took TCU plus the spread. It's too friendly. Even on Barstool where it was 12.5, to me, it's asking you to take it. So I'm taking TCU plus 12.5. Overall, though, for the score, I think Georgia's going to win this game. I think they have too much firepower, and in the trenches is where this game is really going to matter. I think they'll be able to get after Max Duggan in this game, and that's important, first and foremost. TCU, I think, is going to get behind. If TCU does not get behind early, I think then this game gets really interesting. But if TCU gets behind early by 7 to 10 points, they're going to have to really pass to get back into this ball game. It's going to put a lot of pressure on Max Duggan on that offensive line. So I'm going to go with Georgia. I'm going to go with Georgia in this game. I'm going to go with Georgia 45 here to 45-35. That's what I'm going with. It's going to be really high scoring in this game, but that's what I got. Before we wrap things up, I want to thank everyone that tuned in to this episode of the Scarlet and Gray podcast. Again, if you're joining us on Twitter and you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, feel free to subscribe for free to the channel. And it's not just our show, the Faithful Dogs podcast, Yard Dogs podcast, Barking Brown show, the Dog Chug. All our great shows are available there on the YouTube channel for you guys to check out, and our live weekdays on the Network 216 YouTube channel. But JD, before we get out of here, man, I mean, Christmas is come and gone, and I don't know about you, I got a ton of Homage gear for Christmas, man. And I told you this before the show. These sweatshirts and sweaters are probably the most comfortable thing I've ever worn. And I think I've worn one. Yeah, same. Let's hurry up north. Anyway, dude, like, so comfortable. I'm not kidding. I've worn one every single day, and I think I've even worn an Homage shirt every single day.
I got it.
You can't go wrong. Can't go wrong.
All right. So shout out to me. Won my fantasy football championship once again, third time in 4 years. Got my Fantasy Football Legends shirt from Homage. I got my Cavs shirt. I got a Browns that they did the Bud Light Browns collaboration. So I got one of those shirts. Got a couple Buckeye shirts. Got the Holy Buckeye, the one shirt, the retro Ohio State shirt that I always wear. And then I finally got my hoodie, this Columbus Crew hoodie with the Ohio flag and 2 colors. Yeah, so sick. But I was really worried when I got it. So, like, when you first get a sweatshirt, you put it on, and it's, like, super soft. I was like, man, I don't want to wash this. Like, it's going to get, like, gross. And I washed it, and I think it's softer now. So, like,
love it, dude. I mean, you can't go wrong with anything from Homage. I mean, I got this sweatshirt. I got a Brownie Cleveland Browns sweater, a Cavs sweater. I mean, dude, I have so
love
much.
That new Cavs logo that says Cavs and the goal. Oh, it's so clean.
It's so clean. And guys, you want to take advantage right now because Homage is offering free shipping on all orders that are $25 or more. Free shipping. And if you're a first-time customer from Homage, what they normally do if you go to their website, if you type in your email address and subscribe to updates that they have on their products, you will get $10 off your first order. So go to homage.com. Again, tell them Network 216 sent you. We're proud to be a partner of Homage Athletic Apparel. And like we've told you, we wear our gear all the time. And that's not only because that we're a partner with Homage, it's because you're not going to find anything that's more comfortable. You're not. And affordable too, especially with all the prices. Nike, Adidas, Under Armour, it's expensive. But go to homage.com. They always have deals for you. Shop all your favorite teams. And again, thank you for tuning into this episode of Scarlet and Gray podcast. We're going to talk to you all again here soon. And go Buckeyes.